Okay guys, rain, sleet, or snow, I am back with another crypto video. So right here, I want to start with a post from the digital asset investor. He was posting a video clip of a recent speech that Vladimir Putin did, where basically Putin was warning the West the current world order is over and a new era is coming. And also in that speech, that I'm about to play that speech in a second.
И больше набирают обороты, набирают силу. Эти грандиозные изменения, конечно, необратимы. И как на национальном, так и на глобальном уровне идет выработка основ, принципов гармоничного, более справедливого, социально ориентированного и безопасного миропорядка. Альтернативного существующему или, можно сказать, существовавшему до сих пор однополярному мироустройству, которое по своему характеру, безусловно, становится тормозом для развития цивилизации. Модель тотального доминирования так называемого золотого миллиарда несправедлива. Почему вот этот золотой миллиард из всего населения планеты, почему он должен доминировать над всеми, навязывать свои правила поведения, основанные на иллюзии исключительности? Она делит народы на первый и второй сорт, а потому является российской и неоколониальной по сути своей. А лежащая в ее основе глобалистская, якобы либеральная.
But in that speech, he also throws out the word totalitarianism, which again, a lot of this stuff to me is interesting. I don't really have a dog in this fight because a lot of people they're gonna rush to make Russia sound like the villains, as if America isn't just as evil. To me, like I said, that's a whole different conversation. But to me, it is still very interesting that we are seeing a shift that's happening where a lot of countries are starting to make it known that they are not accepting or not comfortable with the direction that really they're talking to, like NATO, but more specifically they're talking to America. Like they don't like because really there's just one big power grab that's going on. Everybody in crypto, we all know about it, we talk about it. People laugh when you talk about a new world order or whatever, but to some degree or another, that's absolutely what these countries are trying to work towards. And as they shift and create this new world, they're looking to have the most power. All of these countries are. I almost call them companies. That's basically the same thing. That's what they basically are. And a lot of people, they think there's a good guy and a bad guy when it comes to these governments, but in reality, they're all more or less the same. All of these countries have blood on their hands. And if you think America doesn't, and I listen, I like America. I love living in America and being a citizen. It's not like I'm not one of those people that just completely hates the country and says all that nonsense. But at the same time, I'm also somebody who's not a big a big proponent of big government. So, but I guess that's a whole nother story. So the next story that I want to get into is a story similar to a story that I reported yesterday, where I talked about the Coinbase lawsuit. It's not a Coinbase lawsuit, but the SEC filed charges against a former product manager from Coinbase. And it's a post here from the official SEC page or whatever. And it says, today we announced insider trading charges against former Coinbase product manager, his brother, and his friend for perpetrating a scheme to trade ahead of multiple announcements regarding certain crypto assets that would be made available for trading on the Coinbase platform. So that's, again, the SEC. The past couple days, they've gotten even busier than they've already been. Like, they've gotten even busier with trying to screw people over than they've already been. Next post I want to get into here, it's actually a post again from the digital asset investor, and it's a video clip of him. It's a video clip of him calling out a guy, a popular, or a fairly popular lawyer within the crypto community named Jake Chervinsky.
Here, I got a little issue with this, Jake. Here's the problem. John Deaton has been telling he's been telling your arrogant butt and all the rest of you arrogant people at the Blockchain Association, the Chamber of Digital Commerce, all of you arrogant crypto attorneys who are too snotty to go and help John Deaton. He's been telling you that this was an attack on all of crypto, but because it was Ripple, you all ignored it and you didn't want to help. Because it was XRP and you all let your ideology get in the way of what was right and wrong, and now you're going to weigh in and join the party because now you see the threat. And we tried to tell you for over a year. Shame on you, Jake, and shame on all of you. You don't represent the industry. You represent yourselves and your ideology, your Bitcoin and proof of work, Ethereum, whatever. You all ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
The next story I want to get into here, it's a post from Brian Armstrong from Coinbase. And the post reads, at Coinbase, we actively monitor for illegal activity and investigate any alleged misconduct. In April, we received information about possible front-running of assets shortly before being listed on Coinbase. We immediately launched an investigation into this. And then he goes on, it's like a thread of posts. I'm not going to read all these posts. I just wanted to tie that back into the story from a second ago about the SEC targeting what's his name? Islan. I believe the product manager's name is like Islan Wahi. I completely butchered his name just now, but I think it's like Islan Wahi. But to me, I think what this really boils down to is this guy Islan Wahi. He is the fall guy. To me, he's the fall guy. He is the fall guy. He is the guy that they're gonna blame all of this on. When in reality, this is probably a lot bigger than him. This is probably much, much, much bigger than him. People are trying to look at this, and don't get me wrong. Theoretically, this is the type of case that the SEC should be focusing on. If they weren't corrupt, they should be focusing on the big connects of the world, which they took forever to actually try to take any action against, and they still put less resources into that than to try to sabotage Ripple. They should be focusing on stuff like this and actual scams that are going on. But at the same time, I think that number one, they know that they're about to lose to Ripple and they're about to lose to Library, and they're just scrambling, hoping to just again target a bunch of what they think are going to be easy targets, so they could just accumulate a bunch of wins. But again, I think this Islan Wahi guy is probably just a fall guy for Coinbase and anybody tied to him. Because at the end of the day, this makes me think about like back in the late 2000s during the housing crash, when like I'm sure many people in crypto have watched the movie The Big Short. Like at the end of the movie where they're wrapping everything up and they're telling you like what happened, to certain people involved or whatever. The only person who suffered any consequences was just some like underling who worked as like one of the executives or one of the managers or whatever at Credit Suisse. Like he was the only out of all the banks and all the people tied to those banks in Wall Street that did all those shady deals that should have all been sent to jail. The only one who really got sentenced and actually went to jail was just some random guy from Credit Suisse who didn't do nearly as much damage as these banks did on a daily basis. So to me, it gives me that same sort of vibe. It gives me that same sort of feeling. Because to me, like I said, I think that if they're willing to throw this guy on the bus, my first thought is he's probably just the easiest person to just throw under the bus here. And he's probably not the only one. But anyway, the next story here it's a post from the CFTC, and it's a statement from one of the commissioners from the CFTC. Her name is Caroline Pham. So yeah, it's a post here, and she also has posted her own state. She also posted a statement here that I'm gonna just read a quick part of, where it says, in other words, in the words of the Federalist number 49, the people are the only legitimate fountain of power, and it is from them that the constitutional charter is derived. Government is and should be the servant of the people, and it should be fully accountable to them for the actions which it supposedly takes on their behalf. The case, the SEC versus Wahi, is a striking example of regulation by enforcement. The SEC complaint alleges that dozens of digital assets, including those that could be described as utility tokens and or certain tokens related to decentralized autonomous organizations, are securities. The SEC's allegations could have broad implications beyond this single case, underscoring how critical and urgent it is that regulators work together. Major questions are best addressed through a transparent process that engages the public to develop appropriate policy with expert input. Through notice and comment rulemaking pursuant to Administrative Procedure Act. Regulatory clarity comes from being out in the open, not in the dark. I'm gonna read that last sentence one more time. Regulatory clarity comes from being out in the open, not in the dark. So I'm trying to stay calm. So somebody named Brian Quintez responded to that by saying regulation by enforcement, threats, leverage, PR, or any other means beyond the APA rulemaking process is wholly inappropriate. Always. I definitely agree, of course. And I'm sure many of you do too. And also Brad Garlinghouse responded to the commissioner from the CFTC with the post that says, powerful words from Commissioner Pham. Regulatory clarity comes from being out in the open, not in the dark. Unfortunately, the SEC seems more content to operate in the latter. So again, many of us are just going to continue to hammer home the fact that people are tired. People are tired and they are frustrated and they are annoyed with the blatant corruption. Because that's really what they're doing. They're just acting like bullies. That's why I compare these agencies. I compare them to just like those mafia movies. This is no different than when in those mafia movies where they go into local businesses and just force the people to give them part of their profits for the day, and they don't give you a reason as to why. They just do it just because they want to do it. And if you try to fight back, they're gonna try to just hurt you or hurt somebody that you know. Next post I want to get into here is a post from Jake Travinsky. Speaking of that guy I mentioned earlier who digital asset investor called out. But the post that he posted that the digital asset investor was calling him out for was this one right here, where he said the SEC alleges in today's complaint that 9 digital assets are securities, but don't explain their analysis for even one. They also didn't sue the issuers or exchange with the tokens traded, the people with the resources to fight back. They just went after one man and his family. Now that just goes back to the point I was making earlier about how I think that Hassan Wahi guy is just a fall guy. It's just they think he's an easy target. But again, apparently this guy was a guy who was rooting against Ripple and not in favor of XRP, the coin, the XRP community, or Ripple at the beginning of this lawsuit. But again, it's funny that once we look closer to victory, everybody is getting a change of tune. Next post here is from Jeremy Hogan. It says the SEC is actually going to object Judge Netburn's scathing order regarding attorney-client privilege and ask Judge Torres to overturn the order. This is the order in which Judge Netburn called the SEC's argument hypocritical. Someone needs to talk them off the ledge. No, nobody needs to talk them off the ledge. I get the point Jeremy Hogan's making, obviously. I get the point he's making. But if they want to dig their own grave, let them dig their own grave, man. It doesn't even matter. Like the arrogance. They have provided very little documents this whole trial, even though the judge has been requesting that they submit documents this whole trial. And they keep refusing to release the information that they know would screw them over. Because they're not here to be honest. They're not here to look out for investors. Because if they were, this case would have never happened in the first place. Like that's mind-blowing to me though. Like the judge who's already made several requests to you throughout this case that you guys have not actually bothered to, follow her orders. She's making another order and you're objecting the order and requesting that she overturn her own order. I can't imagine this judge would say anything but no. Like, come on, like this is just a waste of time. But anyway, like the next post here is from Stefan Huber, and it's calling out Joseph Lubin, where it's just saying, never forget who the only damn person in the whole crypto space is that praises and supports the SEC at every freaking opportunity. Of course, Joseph Lubin has nothing but good things to say about XRP, excuse me, like nothing but good things to say about the SEC. ETH is compromised. ETH is the true banker's coin. ETH is clearly, if they want to call certain coins a security, Ethereum is clearly the real security in the room, and they have turned a blind eye to it. Why? Because they all stood to benefit from it. They all made millions behind the scene. They made out like bandits, so they don't care. And somebody else brought up a good point in like a comment of another video where they said even if these guys eventually do get called out by the SEC to go to some trial, it's not gonna matter because they've already made so much money. Nothing's gonna happen to them most likely. They probably would get just a slap on the wrist. So, but next story here, this is actually some really good news here. It's from Stellar Lumens. It's just them posting like a picture of a what used to be like a plate of cake, but it's been eaten up. It's already been eaten up now. With them just saying, happy 7 million accounts. Them celebrating that they have like 7 million accounts now. We're still very early. 7 million is a lot, but we also got to still put it into perspective and remember that there's like 8 billion people on the planet. So I'm very interested to see like how the Stellar develops. I've heard like allegedly Jed McCaleb is no longer with Stellar. I don't know how true that is, but considering Jed's history of wanting to leave at a very convenient time, that would have surprised me. But that would also make me a little worried for Stellar, the company, or the company and the coin XLM, because you gotta wonder, well, considering Jed's history, if he really did just leave Stellar, what's coming down the pipeline? Because again, conveniently, this guy always seems to get out the way right before stuff hits the fan. So that's kind of interesting to me. Next story here is it's just a quick story. I just wanted to point out it's from WION. The news is from the international news channel WION, and it's covering 7-Eleven laying off 1,000 employees. So they laid off 1,000 employees like on the corporate level at their job at 7-Eleven. Now that could be nothing major, but it also could be. It just depends. But they're claiming that it's not that big of a deal. It's just that they're trying to really adjust to like a bunch of things that were going on with them internally, because they just made some major purchases recently, including like the Speedway gas stations. So that, they could be telling the truth, but considering all this going on in the world right now, I don't really buy that. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. The last story I'm going to get into here is from BlockFi. Oh, well, no, it's from Decrypt, but it's about BlockFi. And it reads, BlockFi had $600 million in crypto loans not covered by collateral in Q2. The company loaned out $1.8 billion and held only $1.2 billion in collateral, according to BlockFi's own numbers. Crypto lending platform BlockFi held loan exposure totaling $600 million by the end of June, according to the company's Q2 2022 transparency report, released on Friday. The report showed BlockFi held an institutional and retail loan portfolio totaling $1.8 billion with $1.2 billion in loan collateral. The firm defines its net exposure to a loan counterparty as the fair value of loans to the counterparty minus the fair value of collateral posted by the counterparty. This means that over $500 million loaned out by BlockFi in Q2 wasn't covered by collateral. Well, I'm gonna skip that paragraph here. We require many but not all borrowers to post varying levels of collateral depending on the borrower's credit profile, explained the company's report. What? Do you hear that? We require many but not all borrowers to post varying levels. What does that mean? That just means, listen, the people that we actually got ties to behind the scenes, we're gonna loan them money without them posting any collateral. That's all that means. Because if I'm not mistaken, BlockFi was one of the companies that loaned a bunch of money to Three Arrows Capital. As a matter of fact, I could have sworn I just did a video about this a few days ago. As a matter of fact, I could have sworn BlockFi, it was either BlockFi or Voyager, but now because of this story, I think it was BlockFi. I could have sworn one of these companies that was dealing with Three Arrows, there was information that came out that specifically said that they loaned Three Arrows $600 million. Now, I don't remember off the top of my head if it was BlockFi or not, but if it was, it would have surprised me. But even if it wasn't, at the end of the day, so many of these exchanges and lending platforms and stuff, they're knee deep in a lot of shady dealings. So it's still yet to be seen if they'll suffer any consequences. Most likely not. Who's gonna suffer consequences? The little people, the people that are actually on that platform being held to a certain standard. For the regular person, when you want a loan on BlockFi, they make you put up everything that you need to put up as collateral. And they're hoping that you can't pay it back so they can keep your crypto. But for these other borrowers who they felt had a quote unquote credit worthy profile, they put up what they call varying degrees. When they say varying degrees, all they mean is they didn't have to put up any collateral and they just gave them a loan. But yeah, I'm gonna just end it there.